You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Working Like Dogs is brought to you by Petco.com. Petco is a leading specialty retailer of premium pet food supplies and services, offering more than 10,000 high-quality pet-related products. Enter the code WORK10, W-O-R-K, the number 10, and get 10% off any order. No minimum at Petco.com.
Hello and welcome to Working Like Dogs on Pet Life Radio. Thank you for joining us today. We're your hosts. My name is Marcie Davis, author of Working Like Dogs, and my co-host is my trusty service dog, Whistle. And Whistle and I are so excited to have as our guest today actor, singer, entertainer, author, and producer, and the list goes on, Tom Sullivan. And Tom has done so many incredible things in his life, including several amazing projects that involve assistance dogs. And he's going to share these experiences with us today and talk about the things that he's been involved with guide dogs. So please come right back after these quick messages from our sponsors as we welcome Tom Sullivan.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Hey boy, how you doing? What am I doing? I'm creating your own life book. It's a website that's just for you. Remember that picture I took of you pulling off Lisa's bathing suit? Yeah, I know, me too. I'm putting that awesome picture on your life book page. We'll see what comments we get. And that great video we took of you standing on the table with your head inside the turkey? That's definitely going on there. No, it's easy. It only took me 2 minutes to set up your page. I chose a great theme, and I can connect with millions of other pet parents. I can also create a memorial life book. No, not for Grandma, but we can make one for Fluffy, remember her? And we can even put links to our favorite pet charity, and friends can make donations. People can create their own life book for their pets by going to PetLifeRadio.livingyearspets.com, or they can sign up on the Pet Life Radio homepage. Where's Lisa? She's outside by the pool. Hey, come back here! Create your own life book for your pet. PetLifeRadio.livingyearspets.com.
Welcome to Sassy Seniors, a show about our fabulous older dogs and cats. I'm your host, Kelly Jackson. I wanted to create a show to really showcase our senior pets. And, as the human population ages and lives longer, of course, so are our wonderful pets. But many of us with aging pets, it's so interesting. We have a tough time realizing or really admitting that they are seniors. So, in a way, I kind of like to think of our senior pets as wise puppies. What do you think about that? Be sure to join us for another edition of Sassy Seniors. And remember, celebrate your senior pets.
Every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com. Let's talk pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Working Like Dogs on Pet Life Radio. Whistle and I would like to welcome our guest today, Tom Sullivan. Hello, Tom, and welcome.
Marcie, I'm delighted. What you and Whistle are doing is spectacular. You're spreading the word about the love and care of our working friends. The only thing I wonder about is whether Whistle is getting a royalty check, because he's part of this deal. Yeah.
Well, you and Whistle can talk about that, Tom.
I'm sure discuss this.
Yeah. Well, we're just so excited to have you with us, and you've just done so much. I mean, I meet so many people with disabilities throughout my life, and very rarely do I say that someone is really a true role model for young people with disabilities, but I truly want to say that about you, Tom, because you are just such an incredible leader, and I'm just so excited to have some time to visit with you today.
Well, Marcie, I'll tell you, the term leader is so appropriate for our conversation because my dogs happen to be leader dogs out of Michigan. And I think about the process of all the things I've been blessed to do, from sports to my professional life and in global travel, and the years with Good Morning America, the years on the lecture circuit, the years in Vegas and nightclubs, the years commuting every week to New York to work for Good Morning America, all of it with dogs that made it possible. And when I look back, what amazes me is how bad I was as a handler and how great the dogs were. I mean, the first dog I had was a beautiful, beautiful golden retriever named Dinah. And I'm telling you, Dinah was, the only way to put it was state-of-the-dog art. I mean, I think about the things I did without thinking. I mean, okay, so I'd been a marathon runner all my life. So I get Dinah, and the trainers had said, now start her off easy, just don't make her do too much and get to know the neighborhood. What do? This young, arrogant, 25-year-old blind guy. I take her down to the beach and ask her to run 10 miles because I want to. Now, the amazing thing about this is you don't realize that a dog, she could run 10 miles if she could run ahead, stop, sit down, wait for me to catch up, and run on. But the truth is, because they only sweat through their paws and their tongues, if you make a dog run right with you at your pace, the dog goes, I can't do that. And, Dinah hung on and did this, for a couple of years. I had no idea that I was putting her under that stress. One time in Kansas City, I was playing at a place called Kansas City Theater. It's a big, beautiful outdoor theater. It seats about 15,000 people. And I had this thing in the show where Dinah was supposed to take me out on stage to the piano for, when they played the overture. What I didn't know was that the place in this theater, actually the Starlight Theater, we did the performance at 7 o'clock on a summer night, and the stage was wooden. And literally the wood was boiling. And this beautiful animal never quit. She took me across to the piano, and it wasn't until about 3 the next morning that I realized she had burned the pads off her paws.
Oh, my goodness.
But never quit. Never quit. Oh,
I know.
Marcie, it broke my heart. Now
I can only imagine. I just.
And then when Dinah grew too old to work, she told me, we were literally coming back on a trip in LAX, LA Airport. And American Airlines had a deal where you'd come off the planes and the gates were in a circle, kind of. And Dinah knew exactly where, from the gate, she knew how to take me down a baggage claim. I noticed that her work was getting slower. And finally, right in the middle of the airport, she literally started to turn in a circle, and she wouldn't go one step further. And I remember kneeling down, and she put her head on my hand as if to say, listen, I'm done. Well, it turns out she had severe cataracts. And what was really going on was Dinah knew, she couldn't guide me. And that was the end of it.
Right.
And then this beautiful dog, I went back to school and got a black lab, Nelson, this young, aggressive, male, dominant dog, and Dinah literally tried to commit suicide. She went under the bed. We had to drag her out. She wouldn't eat. And one night, Betty White, the famous, wonderful Betty White, who I've known since Patty and I first fell in love, my wife and I, Betty was at the house for dinner. And Betty had just lost her husband. Alan Ludden had just died. And Dinah literally was there under the bed, and Betty said to me, Tom, I just lost my husband, and maybe I could do something for Dinah. And Dinah went to live with Betty and rallied and had 5 incredible years. And we wrote a book about it. Betty had a line in the book I'll never forget. Betty said, Dinah taught Tom to grow up and taught me to grow old.
Oh, I love that.
You never forget it.
And I love that book, The Leading Lady. I love that Dinah's story. That is a wonderful book. Wow, that's just, it's just so amazing. I try to explain the sacrifice to people, and I try to put it into words of how these dogs care for us. And it's just so hard, Tom. You just can't. It's just so incredible. It's just not human. It's just amazing.
What's wonderful is they're all different.
Yes.
And Nelson, the dog that came in, was he was, as the trainers all said, he was a savant. He was a working genius.
Yeah.
But he was a lab, right?
Right.
If it came down to a choice between me and food won.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, don't tell my co-host, but that's how Whistle is as well.
Well, here are great quick Nelson stories. Nelson, my first big trip with Nelson was to go to Chicago, and we got to O'Hare, and we got off the plane, and I had specifically, because it was a lab, asked the training team to train Nelson to find my bag with a smell tag on the baggage claim.
Cool.
So we get off the plane, and he's perfect. Down the jetway, I'm telling you, he's perfect. I said to him, come on, Nelson, let's go. And I said to somebody, could you just direct us toward baggage claim? And I started asking for the escalator, and this is a brand new dog. And I'm telling you, he's perfect. I mean, he gets to the escalator, down the escalator, it's beautiful. We get to baggage claim. I said, Nelson, find my bag. And I said, what carousels was on? And they told me that was coming in carousel 2. And he goes, and geez, he finds the bag. And I was so proud of him. I picked up my bag, and I said, let's go outside. We're walking, and sitting on the edge of the baggage claim thing is a little 4-year-old, beautiful little African-American child. And the child is eating an ice cream cone. And I'm telling you, this dog took that cone and never stopped moving. and the mother is screaming at me, sir, that man took my kid's ice cream. And then she said,
Yikes.
weren't you just on Johnny Carson? Can I have your autograph? So, I mean, stuff. My other favorite with him, was Good Morning America had sent us to Southern Illinois to do a story on a guy named Dave Drabecki, who was a famous pitcher who had cancer and had beaten the cancer and had started to adopt disabled children. It was a beautiful story. But when we landed in Chicago, they had a late spring freak snowstorm, and they had to get a limo to drive us 6 hours to where we were going. So we're in the car, and by the time we get there, there's 6 or 7 inches of snow on the ground, and it's 2 a.m. And as we drive in, the driver said to me, hey, Tom, there's an Arby's roast beef right at the end of the street here. Do you want a sandwich? I said, oh, no, man, I just want to go to bed. So I get in, and I take him out of the car, and he pees, and I take him in to the hotel room. And I'm one of these people that sleeps naked. So I crawl into bed, and I'm in bed, and I hear, and I said to him, shut up. Shut up. All right. So I get out of bed, and I put on my loafers and no clothes but a trench coat that goes down below my knees. Now, it's 15 degrees out, and I opened the door to let him out. He jumped. I got the leash caught around my leg. He dragged me out. I fell in the snow. But the door swung shut. And now you've got a blind guy in the middle of the snowstorm outside, and the dog is gone. Now I start calling him, Nelson, come here. I'll kill you if I find you. Nelson, come here. Well, now the security service guards start coming because I'm yelling. And they said, sir, you can't yell. You got to be quiet. I said, look, I lost my leader dog. They said, well, we'll find him. So now they're on golf carts in the storm, driving around going, yo, Nelson, come here, Nelson. Well, 15 minutes go by, and nobody lets me back in the room. I'm freezing to death in my loafers and my trench coat. Okay, here he comes. He is trotting up the road like he's the proudest animal that's ever known. And he literally was carrying 2 Arby's roast beefs. And Marcie, this is no kidding. He got to me, and he dropped one right on my foot like, here, want one? Aren't I terrific?
Well, I can appreciate that.
The stuff that we all live with them is just remarkable.
Yeah.
And I've, in the new books that I've written, I've one actually with Betty White called Together, a novel, and another one called Alive Day. I've created a family with a blind fellow and a guide dog. And, it's funny. I never really, because I was using the dogs just like you, I never really had gone and worked sort of from the beginning of the training cycle. And thanks to guide dogs up in San Rafael, boy, oh boy, did I come to respect
Yeah.
both the animals and the humans
Mm-hmm.
who evolve.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing some stuff with these dogs now that I never did. This whole business of treadmill training.
Yeah.
You know, where they're putting the dogs on treadmills to get their impulsion so that you get a chest pull from the dog.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. I know. I really always feel like I need to be doing so much more with Whistle because he's so smart. He's a lot like how you described Nelson. Whistle is a true soldier. He is. Yeah. He is a worker. You know, and my retired guy, Morgan, is a golden retriever like Dinah, laid back, totally loyal, would never even consider going for anything else. It was all focused on me. But Whistle's like, you're doing good. Hey, let me go do this, and I'll be right back. You know.
Well, it's interesting. I have this theory that one of the things that all the schools need to work on is they need to do a better job with us.
Yeah.
I mean, these dogs come out ready to work.
Yeah.
And very often we're the people who let down the potential partnership.
That's right. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, you know, these dogs they've had 2 years. They've got their PhDs in this. We're the ones that need the training in how to use them.
The other thing I've figured out, Marcie, and I'm sure you have feelings about this, having had a golden and a lab, I've now had 2 shepherds. Edison, the fellow that's with me now, is a beautiful, beautiful, handsome German shepherd. And I've learned that for my particular personality, shepherds, if I could find them, and not many of the schools are doing them now because of dysplasia and the other issues,
right.
Shepherds are what I need to have. Also because of being sort of a public person. The shepherd's really good for me because it slows people down from coming up and grabbing at it.
Okay.
And I know, we put signs on the dogs and stuff. I've never done that. I just figured being 6'3" and a big guy and having a big German shepherd, people are gonna be a little hesitant.
Yeah, it's a little daunting to.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I was going to ask you that, Tom. How is it with your public life? How has it been having a guide dog with you?
Really, nothing but an advantage, Marcie. The dog is a ticket to kindness, and the dog brings out the best in people. Now, sometimes it also brings out the most annoyance because people are so direct in the way they come at the dog and grab at the dog and want to pat the dog and ask the wrong questions and do all those things. But fundamentally, the dog really is a calling card to goodness because people are uncomfortable anyway about blindness. They're not sure how to deal with us.
Right.
If they have the dog as a communicative part of the relationship, the immediate relationship when they meet you, they do a better job at being more relaxed.
Yeah.
And so I think the dog, for the most part, creates good intimacy.
Well, I guess I want to take that question a step further. And how has it been for you in doing your professional work? Like, for example, because you're on stage so much. Yeah. How is that for your dog and getting them in a downstage? Yeah, how is that?
Yeah, Nelson was the one that was always a problem. See, Nelson made a decision that before I had Nelson, he had been out with a piano tuner. And he had decided that he didn't like music a lot. So when I would perform, and Nelson, he'd do his job, but he didn't like being there.
Yeah.
And what was funny, my 2 favorite things about it, one was he had decided that he knew the program that I was singing. He got to where the last song I was singing back then was, "Did You Ever Know That You're My Hero?" And Nelson, I would get to the end of the song, and Nelson would stand up and walk off. Like, that's it, we're done. Well, sometimes the audience wanted an encore, and I would be out on stage by myself without the dog. The other thing he'd do, the other thing that I love, I was giving a speech in Washington at the Washington Press Club, and we had decided that the stage was small, and we wouldn't have Nelson up there with me because I was standing at a podium. So Nelson was backstage, and I had tied him to a chair. So I now start my speech, and about 5 minutes in, I hear this incredible banging and pounding, and I can hear Nelson going, he is dragging this chair up the stairs, across the stage. As far as he was concerned, Master is up there, and that's where I'm going. Yeah, the labs are they're altogether different. They're altogether different.
Yeah, they really are. We are going to take just a quick break to hear some important messages from our sponsors, and we'll be right back to continue our fascinating conversation with Tom Sullivan. So come right back.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Working Like Dogs is brought to you by 1-800-PET-MEDS, America's largest pet pharmacy. 1-800-PET-MEDS is your best source for pet medications, vitamins, supplements, and pet supplies. Get great savings, fast service, and free shipping. Go to petmeds.com/work, WORK, to get 10% off any order and free shipping on orders of $39 or more.
Coast to coast and around the world, it's Oh Behave with Arden Moore. Find out why cats and dogs do the things they do and get the latest buzz from wagging tongues and tails in Rin Tin Tinseltown. From famous pet experts and best-selling authors to television and movie stars, you'll get great tail-wagging pet tips and have a fur-flying fun time. Oh Behave with America's pet edutainer, Arden Moore. Every week on demand. This is the place for a special paparazzi treat. Only on PetLifeRadio.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Working Like Dogs on Pet Life Radio. And Whistle and I are visiting today with Tom Sullivan. And Tom's just got so many amazing things to share with us. Now, Whistle's a cross, so he's half golden, half lab. But that lab is just so dominant in him. And he looks like a lab. He doesn't look like a golden at all. He's not fluffy. He's definitely...
Where did he come from, Marcie? Where?
He actually, I was going to say, he came from Michigan as well. My dogs, he and Morgan, my two latest guys, came from Paws with a Cause, which is out of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Mike, the head of the school is Mike.
Mike.
I can't remember his last name, but my trainer, Smitty, Harold Smith, who trained all of my dogs and now is retired, but Smitty ended up at Paws for a Cause.
Oh,
and really
okay.
so believed in it because of the cross-section of things that they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I just love them. They've been so awesome to me. And Mike Sapp, that's his last name. I've had my two recent dogs. My first dog was from Canine Companions for Independence, and I loved them. Her name was Ramona, half black lab, black golden. She was golden as well.
Marcie, are your disabilities multiple?
No, I use a wheelchair. I'm a paraplegic. Yep. And I have been a paraplegic since I was 6 years old. So I've definitely been aging with this disability and it keeps evolving. And
I'm sorry, I thought you were, I apologize. You know, I get so hung up on guide dogs. I just assumed you were blind when you...
No, but when I wear my sunglasses and have my assistance dog, people think I am, Tom.
You know, it's interesting. Marcie, I know this is reversing the conversation, but I'd love to ask this, and I never have. As a para, working with a companion animal, have the dogs, in your case, have the dogs enhanced your sense of self-worth?
Oh, there's no comparison. And, you know, that's what I was going to say is I've been in a wheelchair since I was 6 years old, so I grew up like this, you know, and I thought I was pretty independent. But then one day my husband and I saw a documentary about assistance dogs, and I was like, wow, I got to have one of those. So I, started the process, which, as you know, back then in the early 90s, it was a, multiple year waiting list. Yeah. But when I got my first dog, Ramona, I was a professional. I was working for the Florida Attorney General's office. I was so happy, but I did not realize what I was missing. I did not realize that I was turning down opportunities because I couldn't travel, because I didn't feel safe enough to do that as a woman with a disability.
Yeah.
You know, I just didn't realize until I just so remember that aha moment with her when, you know, I realized, wow, I can drive by myself now. I can travel for business. I mean, I was promoted within just a couple of months from getting my first dog. And it's just been, you know, the doors have been wide open ever since.
You know, I'm so interested to hear you say it, because if you said to me, what have the dogs taught you most of all? Well, first, they've taught me unconditional love. I mean, this is clear to me. The fact that they don't have moods, they only have disappointments and elation.
Yeah.
A dog can be disappointed, and it can be elated. It can be happy and sad in that sense, but not from the point of view of having a mood.
Right.
And so the consistency of the animal has been critical. And then this concept I've written about in books, but I really feel strongly, when I was born blind, the doc said, Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, your child's blind, put him in an institution.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said. And along the way, my whole life was all about being independent. I said, that's crap. I'm going to step up, and I am not going to allow limits.
Yep.
Well, I took a pretty good pounding.
Yeah.
You know, the dogs taught me interdependence.
Yeah.
And that interdependence, Marcie, that's the magic.
Oh,
if you can don't you think, if you can get to where, and this is the biggest issue right now in the issues surrounding disability, and that is, for very good reasons, disabled people, in many cases, across multiple disabilities, have basically dug in and said, particularly in my group, in the blind groups, we're going to be absolutely equal. We want, I mean, they're in the National Federation for the Blind, they believe, for example, that a blind person can teach another blind person how to use a cane. Are you kidding? I'm not crossing a street with a blind instructor. So it's gotten way out of hand, and it's because we, as a population, all 54 million of us, have not understood that it's okay to be interdependent.
Yeah.
And the dogs teach that. The dogs teach you that.
I remember a relative said to me when I was, you know, waiting on the waiting list for my first dog, oh, don't get a dog. It's going to make you look more disabled. I was like...
Yeah.
Thanks.
My mother said it. My mother said, well, isn't the cane enough? She said, you're going to call attention to yourself.
Yeah. Yep. That's what my relative said, too.
Okay,
and I was like...
fine, Mom. That's exactly what I have in mind.
I know. I was like, could I possibly call more attention to myself as I'm struggling and, you know... Yeah, I know. And it's okay for that interdependence. It's a beautiful, healthy thing, I think. I mean, I always say that's the best gift I've ever received is my assistance dog, because it just changed my life and my husband's life. You know, he says that too. I don't think there's any
question. Our family, one of the cornerstones of our family's intimacy is the dogs.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for mine as well.
We are very, very engaged. I mean, Tom, my son who's working upstairs now, says to me all the time, Dad, don't worry about Edison in retirement. You know, he can be with me.
Yeah.
And he means it. I mean, he means it.
How many dogs have you had, Tom?
Edison's the fourth. So there's been Dinah, Nelson, Dinah the Golden, Nelson the Lab, Pardner, a shepherd who sadly developed cancer very early, and you know, in big breeds, this is one of the major things. I'm, as a side note, I'm very involved in an organization called the Morris Animal Foundation.
Yes.
And we right now are funding a $15 million cancer consortium to try to make a difference in canine cancers, because this thing is way
it is. It is.
Particularly with Goldens and Labs.
Oh, absolutely. I know when I got my first dog, Ramona, that's what they told me, is that they're little cancer factories.
Yeah.
And it's just so heartbreaking.
This is the hardest. Edison, the shepherd that I have now, who's 8.5, has neuropathy. So he's beginning to develop problems in his hindquarters with the nerves. The thing that's so sad as I watch him is there's no pain. So his need to do his job is just as high.
Yeah.
But his capacity to do it long term, you know. So I'm always, and this is the toughest part with a service animal. If you've had more than one, when you have your first one, you don't think about it. If you've lost one, the saddest thing that we do as handlers and mistresses is that we start projecting. Okay, the dog is 5 now. I've had him for 3 years, and I'm just watching him now. How are things going? Oh, that's the worst thing we do.
Yeah. How old is Edison now?
Just a little over 8.
A little over 8,
so
yeah.
I think he's on good meds, and the way he's going, I think he'll work till he's 9.5.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he'll reach 10 as a working animal, but it just, and you do, just like I'm 63, and as I get to this age, you start to say to yourself, every day has to count.
Right.
I'm doing that with Edison. When we throw the ball on a given morning, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, how many more mornings will he chase the tennis ball?
Yeah.
So,
and that's why we should live every day, right? Yep.
I think so.
I do too. Yeah, because I know, because they can never work long enough, and they can never be with us long enough. It's just, it is such a short.
That's why you and I touched on this, but I think it's important for your listeners. It's why we as masters, mistresses, handlers, why we have to take the job as seriously as they do.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I may use this, I know so many blind people who simply don't want to get off their butts and work their animal. The animal doesn't need a lot of work, but it needs continuous reinforcement.
Yes.
So it can be as simple as walking 2 blocks in a day to get the dog out there.
Yeah.
If you take away their purpose, they will eventually do what any smart creature will do. They will decide that what you really want is for them to be a pet.
Yeah.
And these,
it's work. I know, it's work. I was talking to a woman not too long ago that was getting a successor dog, and she was just complaining. She, she didn't want to keep this dog, and I'm like, it's work. You're not getting a robot. You're getting a dog. That dog is committed to you, but you've got to be committed to it. And you have to, like you said, you have to get out there and work that dog and make sure that it stays the fine-tuned animal it is.
I'll give you a great example with Edison. So I still go to New York fairly often, and I always stay at this wonderful hotel called the Carlisle. And I was there 3 years ago and stayed in room 714. And so when I went back 2 weeks ago, I had called ahead and said to the manager, it'd be great if I could have the same room. And he said, yeah, no problem. So I get 714. So we get out of the limo in the front of the hotel. Edison, I can feel him lift his head, and he kind of looks around. He's kind of assessing. And then he made this noise. He went, well, when a shepherd does that, that's like, oh, yeah, I got it. So he went through the revolving doors, went down this flight of stairs to the front desk. I got a key. And this is the part that tells you anybody who thinks that they're not rational thinkers. We get on the elevator up to the 7th floor, and this dog went down 3 corridors and put his nose on the doorknob that he had been at 3 years ago. Now, that's not just memory. That's processing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way it's like, for example, Edison will constantly try to outthink me. Like, okay, so I take him out in the morning to go park, to relieve himself. And when we come back into the hotel, I tell him to find the elevator. You know what he does half the time?
What?
Goes to the dining room. Because what he thinks in his sequence of events is he doesn't really want the elevator. What he wants is to have a cup of coffee and listen to the news. There's no question that they can think.
Oh, absolutely.
That they can think.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they are. They're always looking out for us. But I'm just so mesmerized by guide dogs and how they can do that.
And here's the fascinating thing to me. It's the subtle stuff that they do. Like, okay, so I'm working on a piece of music, and I'm struggling with the writing. And I'm sitting at the piano by myself. Edison's laying there. And, I, like all writers, I'm talking to myself. And I'm saying, oh, for God's sake, what's the matter with me? I can't get that lyric right. He'll literally sometimes just get up and touch me with the lightest touch. Like, everything all right?
Yeah.
You got a problem? Anything I can do?
Yep.
Can I
just checking in. Yep.
Yeah, can I talk to you about it? The other thing is when we're taking a trip early in the morning, because I'm on airplanes from California all the time, I've literally had to condition Edison to go out and get his system taken care of at 4:30 or 5 in the morning out here.
Mm-hmm.
And the other reason for it is so that if I'm in New York, but I'm going to fly back, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, but he's okay because he's used to going at 5 o'clock. Now, he will normally go out and I let him browse, and he takes his time, and he enjoys the morning. And if the limo is here to pick me up, and he sees it, his position is, I'm doing this in a hurry.
Yeah.
We're going.
Yep.
You know, I'm going.
We're out of here. Yep.
We're going.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Again, that's because he has rationalized, he has worked through the questions. Okay, here are his questions. Master took me out. I go out like this all the time. But Master took me out, and the limo's here, and I see Randy, the driver. Oh, well, that's a little different.
Yeah.
Same thing when I get up early in the morning, if I brush him and start to tell him he's going to go to work. His whole pace of play picks up.
Yeah.
You know, he's lifting and that's just joy, but it's also they're processing information.
Oh yeah.
It's not just conditioning; they're processing information.
Absolutely. And they're anticipating of what's going to happen. I know Whistle is that same way when we go to the airport. As soon as he realizes we're at the airport, boy, he goes to the bathroom. He does both of his businesses, so fast. Because just like you said, he knows what's going to happen and that he needs to not mess around. It's not playtime. It's time to get busy and go.
Edison will not drink water on an airplane.
Yep.
No matter how hard I try. He won't, because he's saying, I don't know how long I'm up here.
That's right. Are you kidding me? I can't drink water now. That's how Whistle is, too.
Yeah. And they've got it figured out.
Yeah.
Well, geez. Well, we've sure covered a lot of areas, Marcie.
I know. Well, Tom, I could talk to you all day. I just love your experiences, and I love talking to someone else with a disability and about what it's really like.
I hope this will be useful to you, and it'll be the kind of tape that...
No worries. It's very helpful, and I think our listeners will really appreciate your honesty and your experiences. So thank you so much.
I love sharing it with you, and if I can ever help again, call me up.
Well, I will. And same here. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to call me as well.
I'll do it, and thank Mark for it.
I will. Okay. Thanks so much, Tom.
Okay, okay.
Bye. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, but we would like to take this moment to thank our very wonderful special guest, Tom Sullivan and Edison, as well as our producers for making Working Like Dogs possible on Pet Life Radio. And if you'd like more information about Tom, please feel free to check out his website, which is TomSullivanKeynote.com, and we will have that information up on our website at PetLifeRadio.com under Working Like Dogs. And if you have any questions or anything you'd like to share with me and Whistle, please feel free to email us at Marcie, MARCIE, at PetLifeRadio.com. So thank you so much to all of our listeners and our producer and sponsors for making our show possible, and we hope you'll come back and join us again very soon. So take good care, and thanks so much.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.